Good morning, business students. So, I read this article yesterday, which I've edited and reduced in size for the case study for obvious reasons. If you want to watch the full article, then pop on to the Times. So, Aston Martin insists its new models will drive profits. So, they're not really investing in EVs at the moment. So they're planning to launch their first full electric vehicle in 2027, very late to the market. But if you think about the market segment that this company is in, they're in luxury performance. And this gives me an excuse to put a picture of James Bond up there. So if we think about this quintessential British performance car, I think by 2027, before that, if there's a new Bond film that comes out, I'd hope to see the full EV model in there for lots of obvious marketing reasons. But if we were to describe their EV sales at the moment, very low market share, and clearly they're not launching the full EV until 2027, so low market growth, we could call this a dog under the Boston matrix. However, we should be very careful with that because there's negative connotations that go along with dog. So if we're thinking about this as a rising star, well, I'm not even sure if that's a good description of it either, because we're not investing loads of money in marketing. However, we are investing loads of money in R&D. So it brings us back to our product life cycle comparison between the Boston matrix and the product life cycle. So if you think about it, loads of money in R&D, let's get this car right before 2027, way before the new later date that the UK have introduced for banning diesel and petrol cars, for example. And hopefully it's such a beautiful car that the petrol heads that currently buy Aston Martin, and not just petrol heads, but obviously the luxury feel of that performance engine, well, we'll see what happens in 2027. But in the meantime, revamping some of those exciting brands like the Valkyrie, definitely a James Bond name, hey? So hopefully boosting their sales, and let's face it, they're in £1 billion worth of debt. So this video's on a quick reminder of Boston Matrix. I know we've done loads of stuff on this, but also portfolio management. And I'm going to remind you of that cross-promotional benefit or possibly cross-promotional pitfall. Okay, so here's the poster from our classroom. Thank you very much to the people that designed it. But as a visual anchor, it's nice to use the same posters. So our stars, just thinking about what we're looking at these measures: market share, market growth. And remember, I've just described EVs at Aston Martin as dogs: low market share and growth, generating low income, rarely worth investing in. Well, I don't agree with that, and that's why really the EVs aren't dogs, are they? These are the introduction R&D stage. And we're thinking about, yeah, it might be the decline stage, but in the case of this case study, which I'll show you in a bit, clearly not. Now, remember, we're in a quadrant here, as always. We've got market share, market growth. You're not just in one of these sections. You might be over here somewhere, okay? So we could be sort of a bit of both with characteristics described. So often at the launch stage, well, I think our EVs are at the launch stage. Yeah, it requires high investment. Well, in the build up to 2027, we're going to see a lot of advertising. And I hope, for the sake of Aston Martin, a new James Bond film with the new James Bond in his new, or her, EV, it's a he, has the potential to huge income growth. Well, yes, definitely, but we've not seen the car out yet, have we? So in the future, I'm hoping they get lots of income generation. But remember, Aston Martin are still a global brand. Not all countries are banning petrol and diesel cars, okay? So they could have different product life cycles in different countries. This is a global company. Low market share, but high market growth. Well, when they first launched their car in 2027, it's not 2027 yet. then they are going to see high growth, because at the moment it's zero. Okay, as a percentage comparison, it's high growth. But we need to understand that Aston Martin are not just in the car industry. Aston Martin are in the luxury car industry, which is a niche market. So if we were to say low market share in the car market, well, that's just a characteristic of being niche and luxury. If we then analyse this as a market in itself, luxury performance cars, well, then we can think about their market presence, percentages in that subsector of the car market. It's a slightly different argument here. So we've got our stars up there, just looking at the poster metrics up there, and we're thinking about we need to spend a lot of money, you know, when they first come out, and this is the potential stars, or maybe this is the problem child question marks. Maybe when the EV comes out, it's going to be something like over here or something. Don't know, we'll see. But hopefully high income compared to other products that they sell. We're not comparing it to a Volkswagen Golf, remember. Requires high investment. Well, they're developing the car now. I'm sure they'll be teasing us with pictures and case studies and articles about how brilliant this new car is. And then, remember, they're in the growth phases. Well, they're not quite a star yet then, are they? Because they've not actually launched the car yet. They're still doing the odd hybrid. So, thinking about our cash cows, well, lower market share and low growth, high market share, sorry. So you need to think about this. This is the maturity stage of the product life cycle. So we've got loyal customers buying our cars. They still love them. Hopefully they're sort of selling themselves because they want to be James Bonds or something. And who doesn't love the sound of an Aston Martin engine? Let's face it. Let's hope the EV has a bit of a grunt, or something that is the technological equivalent. We'll see how that comes out. So you think about this, they've got some brands that are in the cash cow stage, and it might be that they're not really advertising them that much. They sort of sell themselves, and it might be other things, other brands, the stars that get all the attention. But remember, when we talk about iPhones in class, the iPhone 15, well, soon to be 16, might get loads and loads of press. People are still buying the 14s, which aren't getting much press at all, other than Tesco's offering a cheaper line rental on them. So you've got that cross-promotional activity, which I'll talk about a bit more. The question marks sort of talked about that as well. Remember, when you're going to the case study, we are looking for evidence of market share and market growth. And if you talk about those in context of the case study, then you can talk about, for example, question marks. Okay, so we're spending a lot of time on these, and I'm hoping that these will be the stars of the future. And the dogs generally are those ones that are going to be in the decline stage of the product life cycle. However, go very careful just looking at market growth and market share, because Aston Martin have parked temporarily their aspirations for EVs. Now, does that make their hybrids a bit of a dog? Yeah, maybe they're sort of there as a bit of a parking mechanism, getting ready for the big oomph launch of the, I don't know, we'll call it the Dobby EV car. And maybe that's the future. And then suddenly we don't really hear much about their hybrids. Hybrids just seem like this sort of lost in between, not really sure what's going on with them. Don't really want to give up my petrol car, so I'll sort of get one to, I don't know, not pay congestion charge. So we need to think about it. Now, we also need to remember this concept of cross-promotional benefits or pitfalls. So if I'm launching a brand new product in 2027 and there's loads of hype for the next 2 to 3 years, and suddenly it comes out and it's terrible, well, maybe there's a negative impact on our cash cow brands from our brand new launched product. It comes out, the electric EV is just awful. I don't know, they catch fire on the side of the road like a Samsung battery or something. Not that they were on the side of the road. Maybe the Vauxhall that was having problems years ago. And suddenly it damages the reputation of the Valkyrie. Okay? It could be that the EV comes out and it's so good that it flies to star status, and the cash cow brands of those older second-hand models that can still be sold in 2030, whatever it will be, who will know, depending on the government. Maybe the value of those goes through the roof because people want the heritage and the history of that grunty, growling engine. There could be benefits here. Okay, it could be that our dogs who were in the decline stage, because of the new exciting EV, suddenly those dogs become more popular, so you don't quite put those dogs down yet. Okay, who knows? In context, we've got some lovely evidence from the case study, which I'll share with you after we've planned the question. But as a little bit of a spoiler here, have a look at some of these. So we've got some figures in here. We've got drive future growth. We're talking about the potential increase in market share in this luxury car performance sector. Okay, these are the clues we'd look for in a case study. We're looking at the DB11. It's existing popular models, and they'll need less investment because we're thinking about investing in this rising star. Hopefully these will continue to sell themselves. Maybe there'll be a slightly updated version as the new plate comes out, change the wheels, or I don't know, whatever they're going to do with it. But you think about it, this is the minimal investment from a marketing perspective. Those question marks, well, maybe the 4x4, maybe this goes to a dog quite quickly, by the way. Dipping your toes into those 4x4. Is Aston Martin really a 4x4? Is this really for the US market more than the UK? Well, the US love their SUVs. So maybe if we're thinking about this localized strategy, everyone loves a bit of James Bond and an Aston Martin, but then again, we need our off-roading for driving around Chelsea. And it could be that the older models eventually get phased out, or they become more limited. And if they're more limited for the die-hard fans, maybe they're willing to pay a premium price for these and eventually then phase them out. Remember, dogs through product extension strategies can become those question marks, stars of the future. Remember what we talk about with the history of the iPod before they finally put that one to rest. Lots of different changes in market strategies, pricing strategies, targeting different demographics. Could be the same thing. So before I pause you pause the video, here's the question I'd like you to think about. So using your knowledge of the Boston Matrix, which means you need to be talking about the language of those 4 quadrants and the characteristics and strategies that we might use in them, assess the likely benefits. So it's one of those evil 10 markers. We are looking for benefit 1, P paragraph, and a however. We're then looking for benefit 2, P paragraph, and a however. We're then looking for A, answer the question, J, justify, and justify here seems quite easy to use the word without maybe. But if you were just to answer this question, tut, 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 it would be benefit, benefit, overall it's a benefit. No balance there. Welcome to your marks being capped at half marks. Okay, possibly level 2, which is 4. So you have to think about these things when we are planning essays. We don't just answer the question, we have to think about the marking grid. Okay, and continuing to invest in EVs. Okay, so it's continuing. I could be thinking about possibly using the language of the product life cycle because they're in R&D and they're dipping their toe in the water with their hybrids. Okay, there's lots we could do with this. Pause the video once we put the case study up. Here is the case study. Remember, the full version's on Times if you want to. I've just chopped this back for you for obvious reasons. Pause the video plan. If you're going to write 1.2 minutes per mark, that's 12 minutes plus extra time if you qualify. Did you pause the video? I very much doubt it. So here is our question, and just a quick one. We are going to demonstrate an understanding of Boston Matrix, assess the likely benefits, I would underline the S to remind me, to Aston Martin as our context of continuing to invest in this. So the benefits to them, this is the start of our hook, and obviously it's of this, okay? So the benefits to Aston Martin. Now, I haven't got the aims and objectives of Aston Martin in the question here. So when I'm reading the case study, I need to look for something that's going on with the business. And in this business, we know that they're in debt. In the business, we understand that they want to increase sales and they want to increase their profitability to £500 million out of, I think, off the top of my head, 2 billion quid's worth of sales. So we know that we've got sales and we've got profits. If we're thinking about profits, how do we increase profits? Well, it could be lowering our costs, increasing our prices, or selling more cars. Okay, so there's lots of evidence we should be able to find. So, excuse the red line. So, to demonstrate an understanding of Boston Matrix, I thought it would be nicer to give me the foundation for the answer and obviously demonstrate the knowledge to actually think about where their EVs are. So it could be that they could become the star, could become sort of continued investment. This is a future orientated statement demonstrating an understanding of the Boston Matrix. So they could become stars by capturing significant market share in the luxury EV market, representing high growth potential as EVs become more popular. Okay, now high growth market share is just using those metrics on the side of that lovely poster. One benefit. So if it says benefits, why not start by making sure you're answering the question? And I like to start my paragraphs off with one benefit and have a guess what the second paragraph's going to start with. Yeah, another benefit, hopefully, or some version of that. Okay, but I'm going to remember my counter arguments. One benefit of investing in EVs is it may position Aston Martin as a leader in innovation within the luxury car market. There's application there because in the question it does not mention luxury car market. If it's in the question, it ain't context. So just mentioning EVs all the time is not going to help you. As car market trends shift towards sustainability, context from the case study, Aston Martin's investment in EVs could enhance its brand image and attract new environmentally conscious consumers. Not just consumers or customers, but environmentally conscious ones. Important, that's context. Don't be that lazy A-level student that talks about customers and products and costs in raw materials. Describe it in context. Examiners will love you for it. The CEO's decision to postpone the first fully electric car until 2027 indicates a strategic approach to ensuring a strong market entry. Okay, so we've got some interpretation of case studies up there, and we've got a direct sort of quote from the case study, and this lovely word indicates is an interpretation of the case study. So this could be interpreted as is a favourite of lots of our students. So if you think about it, we're showing off in some ways. We're not just showing the evidence, we're showing an interpretation of it. However, the immediate financial return on these investments is uncertain. It's in the future. Especially as the company reported a preference among its customers for traditional features over electric models. Okay, they like a bit of petrol. Long-term financial benefits. Okay, now, number one, we've reused that word, so we're directly answering the question. And 2027 is not that long term, by the way. So in some ways, looking further into the future, you can get a slightly different perspective from this, even though I've decided to use relatively short-term profit targets. Okay, so benefits from EV investments could be substantial, helping Aston Martin's recovery and future profitability. Okay, that's my point, obviously. By developing EV technologies, start of a chain of argument, Aston Martin could tap into various government incentives, we know this from the revising this in class, and rebates for electric vehicles, potentially reducing production costs, chain of argument but abstract, increasing profit margins, a bit more abstract, as investing in EVs could be a route to achieving its £500 million adjusted operating profit target. Thank goodness we've used the case study. Through entering a new market segment because they're not already there. Okay? If you're an upper sixth student, you will be screaming ANSOF. ANSOF says this is a risky strategy. However, number one, if it works, then maybe this is the cash cows and the rising stars of the future. If it doesn't work, they're doubly stuffed, by the way. Number one, they've invested loads and loads of money, which will negatively impact their profits. Number two, lots of developed economies are moving away from diesel and petrol. So this is a necessity, not just to enhance profitability. Because if they don't do it, they're pretty stuffed for the future in the UK at least. Already getting justifications excitable. However, the heavy investment required for developing competitive EVs could strain the company's already stretched finances. Now, when I first wrote that, I thought, that's a bit abstract. I don't want my students shouting at me, so I shoved their debt in brackets. Okay? Top tip, if you write something that's abstract, just make sure you give an example. Yeah? For example, they're in £1 billion worth of debt. That would be great. Instead of it just being a recall-based however. Okay, not going to end well in the marking grid. Overall, let's see if we can answer the question. So we quickly jump back to the question. We look at benefits. What's the hook? Continued investment. So we're thinking about this linked to their aims and objectives, which we've previously said are going to be sales, launching that EV by 2027, and obviously they want that improved profitability target, which we've put in the second argument. Investing in EVs offers Aston Martin a strategic opportunity to revitalise its brand, that's in the case study by the way, and align with future market trends, which could lead to a significant long-term benefits. Okay, so we've got revitalise, which is application. We've got future market trends, which we've already sort of talked about, but it's in context with this 2027 and also what we know about, for example, the UK. That's answered the question and it's in context, but does it fully justify our answer? I'm not sure it does. Okay, so we're looking for in this one, I think we're looking for the alternative, and the alternative would definitely be not continuing to invest. Okay, without investing in EVs, Aston Martin might risk falling behind in an increasingly eco-conscious market and changes in legislation banning petrol and diesel engines, potentially limiting future growth and profitability. Okay, so yes, I've brought in a little bit of my own knowledge about the petrol and diesel ban, but we talk about it often in class. And we already know about those eco-friendly customers that would love a sports car but like hugging trees. So we need to think about this. When we're doing our justifications, it is not just a repeat of what we have already written, but actually by considering not investing, that's a slight twist on what we've already said. Okay? Remember, we're not aiming for perfection, we are aiming for level 4, so you need to decide if it's level 4. But as a quick reminder, we need to think that we've got two different styles of 10 markers possibly. If you write quickly, you can always write that one, can't you? Yeah, you're going to be absolutely fine as long as you're finishing a 10 marker in 12 minutes. That's not 12 minutes writing, that's 12 minutes reading, planning, writing. Okay, you're going to plan for probably about 2 minutes and write for 10. Keeping an eye on this type of question, because remember, this is a time trap. This is the one where people mess up and write for 20 minutes because they just want to wow everyone with what they know about EVs and Aston Martin and James Bond. But for this question, we would not use this structure because one benefit is, however, counter-argument, AJ is one benefit, not benefits. Okay, so I would recommend this structure here. Benefit 1, however, benefit 2, however, answer the question, justify, and with this question, I think this would be a nice way of doing it. Hopefully that was useful. Not sure where it is in level 4, by the way. You can decide. You can read the standards the same as me. If it's full marks, send me an email if you're one of my students congratulating me. And if it's not, could you tell me how to improve it, please? Thank you. Have a good day.